Welcome back, everyone. This is the Oracle Looks Beyond the Leading Edge, Q&A, Episode 1. In this piece, we're going to do a little something different than our usual decoding videos, inspired by a couple of recent questions that were posed by a lovely lady who has been inspired by and who has supported our work. She's been viewing our videos, and while learning with all of us, she asks the best questions and offers some very thoughtful and integrated feedback, which I always appreciate. I'll read her comments that inspired this video, and I may do more videos like this in the future. If some of these same kinds of questions present themselves to me enough, then, we'll start answering questions about our work, this type of video, and we'll see, of course, if it's received well or not. So that'll be determined, so we'll see. This comment by Kali D, it may be Kali D, I'm not sure if this is a reference to Kali, the Hindu goddess, or not. But if it is Kali D, stay tuned, my dear, because we can decode for you the goddess Kali from the Hindu religion. And that should be interesting if that's the way that you took your YouTube channel name from. You'll be interested, I'm sure, in seeing that down the road. But this comment, Kali D, left for us on the Oracle Decodes Abraham and Ishmael and the Scapegoat, Child Sacrifice Part 2. And it's so good, I'm going to read it in full so you can, while you're listening to my answer in this one, know exactly what the question was that was posed. All right, so she says, there's so much in this one. I had to watch it twice. I get the gist of things, but you get every last detail. I'm in awe of how you figured out the numbers, ages, weaning, and all the rest. And there it is, clearly. So here comes one or two of my questions. Were you already adept at astrology, astronomy, tarot, comparative religions, and mythology before you discovered the oracle in the sky? It's really hard for me to keep all the characterizations of the planets, constellations, and zodiacs straight. So obviously the elites know all the religions are allegory, and that the stories were made fantastical at the time, when knowledge was passed down orally as a way to remember them. I think they probably acted them out in the forms of plays and theater and song also. I think there was a time when everyone was privy to the knowledge, but at some point it was hidden by the rulers and turned into literalism religion as a way to manipulate and control and profit from the masses. So in other words, all these current gatekeeper truthers who tell half-truths are convincing people that the elites now do actual human sacrifices. And that would mean that the elites are stupid and as much in the dark as the rest of the world, and not the brilliant punk masters that they are who are continually keeping the truth for themselves and are continually laughing at the rest of us. I guess not questions, just my streams of thought. There's more I won't say in a public forum, but I think you know all the bizarre stuff that the elites are being accused of, and I still like your description of them so much, especially the drama society part. They love their theater and theatrics. As for your work, I once again rate it 5 gold stars. And then she left another one on our video, the Oracle Decodes the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction and what Jesus has to do with it. How are you able to make the correlation between the years of the planetary cycles and Jesus at 12 and 30? How do you match up the right scripture to a specific planetary conjunction or solstice, etc., and then seamlessly relate it to the current script that's being written and playing out for us by the controllers? Genius. I guess I want to know what your process is that results in noticing and tying so many seemingly unrelated things together. I see it once it's pointed out, but I could never get there on my own. I love seeing all these unfold. And we love that you're loving this. We are too. And I can't thank you enough for this opportunity you inspired to answer what I think are some really important questions. And we have received some similar questions from others privately, so I think it's time to get the answers going here. At least start the discussion. So first, I just gotta say, the truth is that it's actually astounding for us, even, to realize that we found ourselves here at a real leading edge. To realize, too, how all kinds of genius it really is also completely awe-inspiring to me. I completely agree. I know I'm hoping to get better and better at integrating this kind of flow of genius through my system. It's an energy that is really high energy and really intense. I've observed a similar process with D as well, this better integration of it. Out of the two of us, I would definitely put his facial recognition ability at for real genius levels. His genius skill of facial recognition ability had a huge impact on the research and the work that you, of course, know we only make privately available. But if you asked him your question, he'd not hesitate to tell you, well, yeah, that's right. It's because my queen's a genius. And of course, I love him for that. And he'll hear me say what I'm about to and say I don't give myself enough credit. But the reason that I can do this doesn't have anything to do with that I'm a genius. It's just that I figured out a way to let the genius flow through me. The simple answer is that I know it was our purpose to do this, to be the first outside of this ancient cult in only the Creator knows how long, to be able to decode what you might call the code of the Matrix. That's really what we're doing. But since I had a front row seat to my own life and seeing what I do now, I see how much genius sense the Creator makes in all of the ways that I was being guided the whole time to being able to make this discovery now. And that really is mind-blowing for me to see as well. But when I talk about this, and I really give all the credit to the Creator, I know to some people it makes them really uncomfortable hearing me say that, especially in context of the work that we're doing, which gets into decoding religions all over the world. I mean, we're decoding religion, and then we're talking about the Creator. Most people think that those two things automatically go together. Yet how I've experienced reality, I've found that they rarely have anything to do with one another, at least from my perspective. The truth is, I've always been a super nerd, but it's from insatiable curiosity. That's the personal motivator for me. When I get down to it, I just care a lot about knowing. I'm insatiably curious. I just got to know the truth about whatever it is I'm trying to figure out. And usually, if I apply myself long enough, hard enough, I do. So if I'm any kind of genius, it's that I have a genius level curiosity. That's about it. My ego can't really even pretend to take any pride or be arrogant in all of this. I've been accused of that in the past just by presenting this work. I'm sure I will be accused of it in the future. But my own little ego knows that this discovery is just in a completely different league. It knows it can't compete on that level whatsoever. So I don't have to worry too much about having to check my ego because it already knows, right? Even looking at this information, it knows. My own little ego knows. Don't even bother trying to take the wheel on this one. I'm making this point because it's important to know that you don't have to be a genius to get to this leading edge point. You just have to learn how to let the genius flow through you. So this gets to answering your question directly. I was very young when I became interested in mythology, astrology, and astronomy. And I saw at a very young age how they all tied together. But where it started out was with me reading mythology. And I had to think back about the time frame that this happened in my life, and I realized it was between the ages of 7 and 8. So yeah, I was a super nerd back then too. So around 7 and 8 years old, I was reading every Greek and Roman myth specifically that I could find. I was really into Greek and Roman mythology. And my father, he's the one who noticed how much of these Greek and Roman mythology stories I was reading. So he bought me a book of star maps because he thought I'd be interested in knowing that these stories became constellations in the stars and that I could see them. And with these star maps, they could show me how and when I could see these constellations and how they moved. And then he taught me just some basic knowledge that he had about how that connected with astrology, and I was hooked. A few of those star maps were smaller, like poster-sized, when they were unfolded, so you could see the whole celestial space map for a specific season. So I had 4 of those, right? Summer, spring, winter, and fall. But after folding and unfolding them outside so many times, laying them on a dewy grass, maybe in the summertime, as I tried to orient myself under the stars according to those maps, looking up at the night sky. Well, those sky maps, they didn't last past, I don't even think, the second summer I had them. Now, I've had an interest since then, obviously, but it wasn't something that I stayed with obsessively throughout my life. I was this little super nerd artist kid, so I was into all kinds of things since then and, even now. But I'm sure that the knowledge that I was first exposed to about this, because it was at such a young age and became so deeply embedded in my mind that it stuck, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But I'm also an artist too, so symbolic imagery, metaphor, understanding allegory, that's always had my interest. And then the symbols of the tarot, that came in later. But again, all these things I would say I knew enough about. My interest in any of it wasn't obsessive, and I wouldn't put my knowledge on genius levels either about it. The comparative mythology and religion quest of mine came in my 30s, when I had what most people describe as their awakening experience. I didn't have any context or any reference for the awakening experience that I was having, so that's what began the search for some kind of context to place that in, some kind of framework for me to make sense of what was happening to me. At least, after I had gotten past my fear that I was just going crazy, which is a common reaction for many who are going through this process. Now, the internet is what ended up being super helpful for me in this process. While I was going through that experience, it was when YouTube was just coming online at the same time. And I'm glad that the censorship aspect that's so present now was not such a factor then, because I was able to finally cobble together some semblance of a context for the awakening process that I was going through by finding information about it from what others were sharing about it, and also the information that they came upon that was causing them this awakening experience as well. So 16 years later from that point, here we are, and the amount of information that I've taken in from that point has me even tempted to step back from it, look at it, and wonder, how is that even possible? But I was there, and I know what happened. It's just incredible to me even. The day that Dee and I discovered really what we call the Liar Liar Pants on Fire Secret Drama Society and what they were doing with this, and we began all the research and the creation process for our private video series, we couldn't have imagined at that point making any bigger discovery than that, right? Equal to importance or equal to its enormity until earlier this year. And we commonly call that day April Fool's Day. So what we commonly call April 1st of 2020, when the creator answered the questions that we were both asking in such an enormous way. It was shown to me, but a better description of the experience that day was that I was totally downloaded instantly with full comprehension, all at once, of what I was really looking at. And it's all because of something seemingly small, like a nothing kind of big deal thought. I wondered if there was any correlation between why we celebrate April Fool's Day and if it had anything to do with the sky. For me, that day will now be celebrated as April Fooled No More Day. It was a very intense reaction, very intense experience to have that kind of genius flow through me. That doesn't happen often in a lifetime. I mean, it's just super intense and very powerful. And even when I listen back to our first decoding videos, I can still hear it in my voice, how intense the experience of the initial discovery was. And I've been trying to get better and better at integrating it since. Though no matter how long I do this, I'm not sure I'll ever really get over being so awestruck by that experience, and I still am. My experiences with my former career in healthcare, that also had a great deal to do with my awakening process. And I also remain in awe of how the Creator first had me placed in that particular career at that particular time, and everything that happened with me there. It was all of it without any doubt for me. All the Creator's real training of my discernment now for this time. And everything about the fiction I, with intentional disrespect, call the Rona, and how I can see right through it. The point in saying all of this is that this is really just the tip of the iceberg that I'm saying here, but it's all of this to say that you get here to this leading edge, yes, requiring using your creator-given intelligence at its highest level, but being a genius isn't really required. What is a requirement, though, is being a truly ethical, sincerely courageous being. That really is the deciding factor. It's that simple. I know this because I'm teaching this, and I'm no genius, I'm no guru, but I do recognize how big it is, and I'm honored that the Creator chose Dee and I as the perfectly imperfect people to do it. And I totally also see why that was the reason we were chosen. There's no image of perfection that we could even attempt to hold up. We know all our flaws, we have them. But I also know that to get to this place, to this leading edge place, you don't have to be perfect. But you do have to be healed. And that involves lighting up your own shadow from within. It just goes with the territory. And it's also the reason why almost no one wants to do it and then find themselves here. But it is required. And essentially what this gets down to is, when you find yourself here, you're exposing massive deceptions, right? Tearing people's heroes down in many ways. And so you have really got to light up your own shadows from within, because you have to be wise enough to know that as soon as you start exposing the truth about others, then immediately you know that that light is going to be turned right around on you, right? And for instance, we are expecting, people to have reactions and maybe say, well, what? Are you so great? You have nothing someone could expose about you? Or who do you think you are? You think you're better than all the heroes you're tearing down? Well, to be here at this leading edge place, the required answer to know is that yes, you do have to be better. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be better than the heroes that you're exposing and tearing down. Better as in healed. Better as in ethically better. Because of knowing the truth. You called them punk master controllers, making the connection that they may be just as much in the dark as the rest of the world, and that maybe they're not so brilliant as others have credited them with being. Not so fast, I would say. I think many of them are definitely brilliant, like for real legit geniuses in many cases. I think those types of people are recruited. No doubt in my mind. So it's not in the same dark at all with the rest of the world. They're indoctrinated, yes, in a similar way, but altogether way more off the rails wrong in how deeply they're indoctrinated into the cult that they're all a part of and that we're not. And how could they not be? Don't they have what appears to be all the evidence in the world to believe that they're really acting in the world as living gods? I mean, they are the God makers. You have to think about it this way. So they're first indoctrinated to believe in their cult, and then when their own experience shows them that the majority of people are going to worship them like they are living gods on earth, well, they're believing every story that they tell, no matter how outrageous or unbelievable they are. As long as it's coming from those people, it's accepted as truth without even much question. So how would any of that experience do anything to make these cult members question at all what they're doing? Yeah, I'm aware of all the bizarre stuff that even if I use certain words in videos or comments, that it will end up being censored to describe what you call the bizarre things the elites are accused of doing. Now, even though we know that the stories told about it are coming right out of the Sky Story, and we can totally decode it, that does not mean that these cult members aren't actually doing those bizarre things for real here on Earth. So many of these stories, yes, like we've talked about before, go back to oral traditions before writing. So theater, plays, song, and don't forget dance and costumes, equally important. Those two were all used to pass down this knowledge over time and over cultures. But it was also for an equally important to comprehend reason. And it's best summed up in the alchemical way that it's put forward, as above, so below. It's to bring the heavens, or the power of the heavens, down to earth and then back up again. This is the purpose of the ritual, the act. It's to unite the sky story gods with the bodies of the people participating, or dancing, or singing, or in costumes. They're acting or embodying the sky god characters here on earth, because the sky gods have no body of their own to act in this world, right? The sky gods need body doubles, you can think of it as. They need ears to hear their story and voices to pass it on to others, to dress up in their costumes, to act the way they do. That's the only way that the sky gods have life. It's the breath of life we breathe into them by telling their story and acting them out. So even if the rituals involve acting out something that sounds like, to an outsider, like something that's completely ludicrous, if you're indoctrinated in participating in it, it wouldn't seem ludicrous to you. You'd be a 100% believer in it and believe that it's what God wants you to do. And actions speak louder than words. This is the important part of the ritual aspect. It's not just the story in the mind and in the heart, the story that the heart and mind of the believer is possessed by, but the ritual, the act, brings it to the level of the body and installs then body memories as well. It's also tempting to kind of make a assumption that is what I call romanticizing the ancients. I don't think they were all that different in many ways from how we are now. There's all kinds of people here, right? People with different interests, aptitudes, and gifts. So not everyone back then was here to be the tribe's shaman or the master storyteller, or even care to know this astounding knowledge in any way at all. Some keepers of this knowledge did it right. They did it the right way. They used it and they kept it for the purposes the Creator intended it for travel, for guidance, for navigation over the earth, but also for a way to put in context moral and ethical teachings. And others didn't keep it the right way at all. And all we have to do is look around to see the evidence of that, right? More often than not, when you are looking to a person in a position of leadership, they're not exactly the better kind of person found in that position a lot of times, right? No different in ancient times with ancient peoples either. What I am in total awe of, though, of these ancients is those that sat night after night without the knowledge that we now have accumulated or the technology that we have. Those people that could actually discern among all of those what seem like an unconnected jumble of stars in the sky, identifiable cyclical patterns within them that they could track. I couldn't imagine doing that. I mean, here's a shot of now what you would see in the sky, a model, right, from Stellarium, without the normal north-south meridian line and arc of the ecliptic lines that are drawn on the images that we show in the teaching videos, and without the stick figure constellation drawings, just the stars. Much more difficult, right, to try to discern even when you're looking at a screenshot like this than what we were normally taking a look at, and still will, in our decoding videos. I mean, I can't imagine the genius energy that flowed through the people who made these connections and were able to see these patterns in the sky. It blows me away. I mean, they didn't have any program like Stellarium, and that is crucial in making this discovery. And it's also crucial in your own learning of this material, right? Because what I found is I know more and more people just rely on these mobile devices, our phones and tablets. But when I'm using my phone or my tablet in Stellarium, I'm only able from those devices to look at the sky story for that 24-hour period that it is. It's only from my computer am I able to use the free, program that Stellarium is, but use it where I can move the date and time forward or back, change the location that I want to view the sky story from. You have to have a computer to do this, to make the most out of what you can find, the amazing tool that Stellarium is to help you as you go along here, getting better at reading this language. So I did want to put that out there too. You want to definitely, if you can, if you're learning this material and you want to be able to eventually be able to read this code for yourself, viewing Stellarium on a computer is going to be extremely helpful. Now, with just that, I mean, knowing now that they do all of this from that Sky Story template, and I mean everything that they do, it makes it that much easier just to line up to the Sky Story when they're running the narrative, run it over the 24-hour period, and just take a look at, is there anything special that's happening in the sky that day, any alignments that you see if you can decode what story it is. And it's not going to be very long from now if you do this. You're going to be surprised when you look back at your comment. I'm going to sound maybe like Cypher from The Matrix when he tells Neo, who asks him about if he always looks at the Matrix and code in that scene when he comes upon Cypher and he's looking at the code on the screen. Cypher says, yeah, well, now all I see when I look at it is blonde, brunette, redhead. Now I know why that scene in that movie was put there, and I know what the character Cypher meant. Yes, I can see through this programming code, this matrix code, and with enough practice, if I'm any kind of good teacher at all, the goal is to help anyone who is able to do this be able to do it too. And pretty soon you'll see all the same blonde, brunette, redhead, Sky Story characters too when you're looking at the code. You'll be surprised, like I said, it's probably not going to be that long from now, that you'll be able to, after being exposed to this work and, keep with us going through these decodings, practicing with this on your own, you're going to be able to do this too. That's the whole point. There's never going to be a crowd here on the Leading Edge, and that is because it's a special and honored place to be here, and you're here. And that's really astounding when you think of it, isn't it? I mean, we're well aware of how much work it takes for anyone to find themselves here, looking at this knowledge and learning this new language. So I think that's probably a good place to end this one. I hope I've answered some of your questions. We'll see if in the future we do some more of these question and answer kind of videos, if we get these kind of great questions and if people are interested. But I'm always happy to answer the questions of people who are engaged with our work, supporting our work, and I appreciate, Kali D, you giving me the opportunity to engage with your great comments and questions here. And like I said, I hope that I've answered some of the questions in this piece. So for now, we'll end it here, and we'll see if we do any of these question and answer kind of videos in the future, depending on how it's received. But certainly, we are sure to pick things back up in our next decoding video. So until then, be well.